Hello. It is so late. It's so late right now. And here I am again, not wanting to go to bed. This is so classic of me. Um, so I yeah, my insomnia is back, I guess. I was sleeping like a ton. Like 12 hours a day, kind of on average. And seems like we're done with that for now, which sucks. I mean, it sucks both ways, obviously. Because when I'm oversleeping, I'm losing time, like hours of the day. But when I'm not sleeping enough, the extra hours that I have are not always super productive because I'm so mentally exhausted that I can't do anything. So, great. Super fun thing to talk about. But anyway, it's just always something with me. Ups and downs. But yeah, I mean, you know, I it's funny, like these are the kind of videos that I want to be able to do that are more of like a video diary as opposed to just talking about something, because something that I was thinking about watching back the video that I did about Lost in Translation, which um I was going to say too, I like to rewatch the videos that I put on here, and I don't know if that's maybe vain of me, and that's its own thing, but it actually, like, I get so trapped in these little just the thoughts that I'm thinking at any given moment, and sometimes it's hard to imagine a different version of myself that's lived. I don't know, like I'm just interested in where what am I trying to say? This is hard to explain. This is so weird to try and explain, like, how my mind works, almost, which is what I'm kind of trying to do right now. Like, when I'm thinking about something or I'm experiencing a feeling, I get so, it's so all encompassing that sometimes it can be hard to see another angle or know that I will feel a different way about something given the context. And so I just get very wrapped up in the narrative of the moment, which I think a lot of that comes from being raised in an evangelical church, of like, you just get swept up in whatever the emotion of the moment is. That's such a strong thing because it's the elation that they demand of you, when you're celebrating and worshiping and that sort of thing. And if, they need you to feel bad about something so that you'll contribute money to it, they really elicit that feeling as well, because you have the underpinning of, their interpretation of religious texts and religious teachings. And it's not just the text either. Like, the type of church that I grew up in uh, wasn't super text heavy. It was much more like personal and a sort of imagined personal relationship with God. And I guess the way I can explain it is trusting your sort of intuition or your gut or whatever your will is, as like the voice of God speaking to you, or the devil, or Satan, or whatever. So just sort of attaching your thoughts and feelings and the way that you move about your life to large scale cosmic existential consequences, that's a hard thing. And so, you develop a lot of maladaptive behaviors because of that. And I'm very easily swayed by people and very trusting, and it's, caused some problems for me before. But it does have its upsides. Like, I am very passionate about things, and I try and really stand firm in the things that I believe in, especially more recently, and not just be swayed by rhetoric or whatever narrative so easily. So that's something I'm working on. Anyway, I don't remember why I started talking about this in the first place. I'm just rambling. And clearly this is something I needed to talk about. I don't talk about my relationship to a religion a lot or think about it as much, just because it's taken me, the past 5 years to kind of figure out my worldview and who I am. And I'm continuing to always do that, obviously, but figuring out specifically what that's like for me outside of uh, the religious context that I only ever knew. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure. But yeah, I'm trying to keep up with like the news and what's going on, and I finally found, I think, a channel that's really good for me because it's not sensational at all and really is just this wonderful like female historian just giving her breakdown of what's happening, especially in the context of what has happened like in the US and stuff. So, and just the tone is very just thoughtful and smart and straightforward. So there's something very reassuring about it. I mean, the way that she speaks, the events themselves are truly nothing short of horrifying. Uh, so I'm really experiencing a lot of dread. Um, Not only about the state of my nation and the detachment from the events that are happening, despite feeling so abhorred by them, and at the same time, uh, being deeply concerned for the state and the health and the safety and flourishing or lack thereof of the rest of the world as well. So it weighs heavy, you know, uh, having that be the background on top of like, I have my problems like anybody else. I'm trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to take care of myself and the people that I care about and figure out who I am and what I want and what my future looks like. In a time that is full of a lot of uncertainty and strife, and it just feels like I'm just waiting, like we're all just waiting for the other shoe to drop, uh, and just for something to happen. So, you know, it's uh, it's just strange seeing the rhythms and the routines of normal human life, especially the one that we have established, uh, with like social rituals and consumerism and stuff, just seeing and like having to have a job and all of that, like seeing all of that brush up against events that could potentially shape the status quo of the world order is wild, and it's horrifying, and it's a lot. And but yeah, we do what we can. It's so cheesy, I have a sticky note on my mirror that says keep going in all capital letters. And I didn't think I was the kind of person who would put an affirmation on my mirror, but at this point it's not like, you know, you're strong and powerful. Like, just keep trudging along the best you can. And to like honing the skills that I have that could potentially be useful, you know, and just trying to stay curious and thoughtful and sharp and aware and trying to steel myself because I am a very I can be very afraid. So, um good news is that I started playing Disco Elysium again. I finished Twilight for book club. And I loved it. It was so much fun. Stephanie Meyer, She just really tapped into a real universal truth of girlhood, and like desire, and there's a lot of implications of like patriarchy and, the way that young women, um like AFAB people, are expected to seek romance as like the end all be all, and the a sort of like life altering, just the most incredible blissful thing that you could possibly have. And I think a lot of that is tied up into religion. Actually, it's funny I was talking about religion, because Stephanie Meyer was Mormon, or is Mormon. I don't know why I said was. I think she still is. I don't know. I don't know that much about her. But Mormonism, in a lot of ways, is very similar to the severity of the fundamentalist part of Christianity that I grew up in. So in the book, the character's relationship to, like Bella, especially her relationship to desire and being attracted to Edward, but like not wanting to be too tempted, and like it's very PG-13. Like there's a lot of kissing on like the neck and jaw, and like cuddling up and that sort of thing, but nothing more explicit than that, like we've gotten into with the romanticy stuff over the past few years for sure. Especially like since 2020, I think. So anyway, it's still tame enough that it's really like it's YA. So, younger people were, I guess, the target audience, and it taps into that so well. And because it's not focused on sex, because there's no sex until they get married in the later books, Bella and Edward, whatever, you know what I mean. It really captures like the yearning and desire that people are catching on to. And I have not seen or read Heated Rivalry, but people are talking about the yearning in that show being really good, I guess. And that just sense of like wanting someone and wanting something, that type of passion. I think that that's coming back in vogue. I think we're all tired of the apathy, and I think as things get worse, it's going to be harder to ignore how bad things are. And I think I mean, mark my words, I think it's going to start to be cool to care and to really put yourself out there and like call out the bullshit, and I certainly hope that that also extends to a lot of social relationships. And we talk about like the loneliness epidemic, especially the male loneliness epidemic, which is its own can of worms that I don't need to get into right now. But I do think just on a large human scale, like we're lonely right now. And so I'm hoping that seeing a show like Heated Rivalry or Bridgerton, and these like romances take off, I'm really hoping that that's a cultural indicator that people are going to be a lot more intentional about relationships and everything in their lives, and just like caring, being cool again, so I'm hoping for that. Because we've just been steeping in so much cynicism and apathy, and like online humor is so nihilistic, and that's not how I am. I'm ooey gooey sentimental, as I've said before, and I really care deeply about things to the point that I like need to cry quite often. This is so lame. I need to cry really often cuz I just feel things really really hard. Like I was crying about my cats earlier and how much I love my cats, and my relationship to them is so unique. I've never had a relationship to another living being like that in my life. It's We know each other, me and these little animals that live in my house, and we have conversations all day. And I don't mean like me doing silly voices or them talking to me. I just mean like there's a lot of nonverbal communication that happens, you know? And I kind of understand what they're trying to get across to me, and I think maybe sometimes they might be able to do that with me too. So it's just like And I just love them so much. And I think this is so cheesy. Here we go. But I think knowing something really well is a real sign of love. Wanting to know someone in their inner world and their thoughts. And I try and do that with the cats. And they're just cats. So it's not a lot, but they have their own little personalities and I just love them. But speaking of inner thoughts in your inner world, this is a nice connector back around. Disco Elysium. I've been playing Disco Elysium just the past couple days, and I love The Last of Us, and that's the one that really like altered the course of my life, truly. But I think Disco Elysium is my favorite game of all time. Uh, it's such a cool story. It's so well told. The writing, the prose, multiple times playing tonight, I had to just stop and like I was taking all these screenshots. Uh, and I would just sit and like reread a passage of text a couple times and just take it in because it was so beautiful. And the atmosphere and there's such great depth in the sense of world they've created and the characters, and this place just feels very real, and there's something kind of comforting about playing it because it's a game that acknowledges existential dread and depression and substance abuse and just being kind of crazy and living in a world where like you understand the social conventions of like I could sit here and because you're playing as this detective who has amnesia and has been on a bender and wakes up and he's trying to solve this murder, and there's all these different interesting people that you meet, and there's such a complicated web of like all of these people. There's a union dispute and a strike going on, and the murder's kind of involved with that, and you talk to these people who are tied to these huge systems that are operating, like the union and the company that owns this land in the harbor, and how the union and the company have all these different disputes, and the locals living there, and the revolution that happened like 80 years ago, and how that has continued to affect the city and the country that you're, in, and everything. It's There's so much to it, and the prose is great, and your psyche, like your character, not just your psyche, your body, your mind, your intelligence, um your like sort of soul almost, and everything are broken down into these, it's like 20 different stats, I think, and each one speaks to you. So you have this whole internal monologue, you're talking to all these other characters, and then different parts of your being, whether it be your body or your mind, they're personified and they're talking to you. And so you're trying to parse through all these thoughts. It is just, there's just so much depth and complexity and care and craft put into every single little aspect of this game. And so I'm just really excited to be playing it again, and I feel like I'm understanding it for the very first time, because I played it a few years ago, but there was too much going on with me, and I wasn't quite as aware of everything everything really as I am now. So having replayed it, or like, again, I'm probably 3 hours in, starting a replay of it has been so phenomenal, and I'm so excited to engage with it again and just really savor all the best parts that I know I've experienced before. And I'm so excited to I'm already finding things, conversations I've never had, or checks that I've never found, or just all kinds of fun little new details. Just the discovery of it, is so fun. So, and I also, I'll keep you posted on that. But I also just had a thought while I was watching this, that thinking back a few minutes to how I was feeling when I started recording this, and being able to express how I feel about the things that are bad. I didn't even get into the frustrations of work and everyday routine, but those are there too. But to see myself in the camera and the monitor, like smiling and happy and excited about something that I love, that's why I love art. And it's fun to pick it apart and try and think about just studying every little nook and cranny of it, but at the end of the day, like, this is why we engage with the things that we love, is they make life fun and they make life really great. And I want to be someone who can create those things too, for other people to enjoy and make their lives better. So that's a big part of why I do what I do too. Um, and it's just nice that I have things that bring me joy and fulfillment in my life. And that's why I'm glad I'm pursuing those things. So, uh, yeah. And I guess too, this is such an interesting experiment. I've been thinking about just, the videos I've been making, and again, rewatching them every once in a while just because I want to understand what I was thinking about the day before, because I get so lost in the current moment, what I was initially talking about, that I kind of lose where I was and where I've been. And I want to remember. I want to remember my life because I don't remember a lot of things. I have a terrible, terrible memory. I'll watch these back and be like, oh, I wish I had explained that thing better. Like, that wasn't quite true, or I didn't expound upon that enough, or, oh, I actually don't feel that way about something, or whatever. And, or I see how I'm worried about doing YouTube the right way and like having a formula and like, all right, here's the thing I'm going to talk about, and doing it. And that's not why I set out to do this. Like, I just want it to be whatever I need it to be. And this is what I need it to be right now. So I'm trying not to get too caught up in it. But yeah, because that's the other thing, right? Is like, I want to present this like perfect package almost of like, I want to sit down and really dig through this and present every single little thing in just the right way about why something is great, and be able to argue it convincingly or whatever. But I don't think that's the kind of person I am. Like, I just want to share with you my earnest reaction to something. Because that's the other thing I was going to say about Disco Elysium, is I could sit down and do a 4-hour long video or whatever that's a deep dive into the game. I don't feel particularly excited to do that, but what I am excited to do is tell you that in this moment that is so volatile and scary, and seeing a game that has laid out a world that is war torn and hurting and corrupt and has a real history to it, people keep living. And people can find moments of joy in that, but also that there's a beauty in the continuing of being a person, whatever that looks like, and embracing it. And I think that's a sentiment that Disco Elysium really captures as a story. And it's something that is giving me comfort in a way that I did not anticipate. And that's not to say I want to ignore anything or just try and distract myself from it, but again, art feels like a way for me to survive it and for us to survive it, And Disco Elysium is, in my opinion, one of the greatest things to exist. It is the prime example of what video games can be as a medium. Because the thing about Naughty Dog games that are great, or narrative games, or any kind of linear game, is that they are some of the most compelling stories that we can tell in this industry, but ultimately, or in this medium, that like they are still confined to linearity like every other medium has been. But games that narratively, like artistically, use the narrative to also be part of the gameplay systems, to be interactive, it's the next evolution of what storytelling can be. And Disco Elysium really, really does that so well. So, yeah, I'll probably talk more about it because it's just inspiring me and moving me. And I haven't even gotten to the really moving parts yet. I'm still in the very beginning. But anyway, so finding solace in that, doing what I can. It is so late and my voice is so tired and the rest of me is also so tired. So I should try and get myself to go to sleep. But we covered a lot tonight. This is a long one. I'm glad that this is here for me to talk about some things and just like share, you know? I think more people really need to share their internal world and the things they're thinking about and the things they're scared of and the things that excite them and love that they love, because we've gotten so good at just kind of keeping it closed off, and I hate that.